On the other side of the table, there's always a silence waiting to be understood. Language begins there, not in the words, but in the space between them. For years, teaching English was, for me, about grammar, pronunciation, structure. But one day I realized that perfect sentences never made me feel connected. Imperfect ones did. When someone told me I make many mistakes, I heard more than just mistakes. I heard courage. Courage to be heard, even without knowing if I would be understood. And it was at that moment that I understood fluency isn't a skill, it's a bridge. Fluency lives in the pause before responding. In the gaze that searches for meaning. In the shared laughter when words fail. It lives between us, where language ceases to be translation and becomes encounter. Maybe you think learning English is about speaking like a native. But what if it's about speaking like yourself, in another language? Today, I don't just want to teach you how to speak. I want to teach you how to feel. Because language lives between people. And it is in this invisible, human space that true fluency is born.
Olivia, can I ask you something a little personal?
Of course, Marcus. Language is always personal. Go on.
When you look at me speaking English, do you think I'm fluent?
What do you think?
I think no. I still hesitate, I still translate in my head, I still get stuck on stupid little words. Fluent people don't do that.
So, in your mind, fluency is a person who never hesitates, never searches, never doubts?
Pretty much. They just open their mouth and everything flows. No pauses, no mistakes, no.
And do you know anyone like that, in any language?
Well, maybe not. Even in my own language I pause, I repeat myself, I say weird things.
Exactly. Fluency was never the end of the pauses. It was the beginning of feeling safe inside them.
Feeling safe inside the pauses, that sounds poetic, but I don't feel safe at all. When I pause, I feel exposed.
Exposed to what?
Judgment. I imagine people thinking, wow, this guy doesn't even know basic English. I feel like I'm 13 again, in a classroom, everyone waiting for me to fail.
Do you remember a specific moment like that?
I had to read a paragraph out loud in English. I mispronounced 3 words in a row. The class laughed. The teacher corrected me in that sharp way teachers sometimes have. I remember my face burning. After that, I decided English wasn't for me.
And yet, here you are. Sitting in a cafe in another country, speaking English to a British teacher.
I know. It's ironic. I gave up on English, and somehow English found its way back to me.
Maybe fluency starts exactly there, where you stopped running away. Marcus, let me ask you something very simple. Right now, as you're speaking to me, am I understanding you?
But I still feel behind. I watch videos, I listen to podcasts, and everyone sounds so effortless. I feel like I'm always chasing a train that's already gone.
Are you expressing what you actually feel, not just what you can say?
I think so, yeah.
Then what part of this isn't fluency?
The part inside my head. The chaos, the fear, the constant voice saying, this sentence could be better. That word wasn't the best choice. A native wouldn't say it like that.
Ah. So your problem isn't English. It's the critic living in your mind, holding a red pen.
Exactly. Every time I open my mouth, that critic gets louder.
Tell me, Marcus, if a close friend spoke your language the way you speak English, how would you react?
I'd be impressed. I'd think, wow, they can share feelings and thoughts in another language. That's amazing.
Would you stop being their friend because of their mistakes?
Of course not.
Then why do you treat yourself so differently?
Because it's me. I hold myself to a different standard.
Fluency doesn't grow in the soil of punishment. It grows in the soil of permission, permission to sound like a learner, permission to be incomplete, permission to exist in a language even when it's not perfect.
But the world doesn't always give that permission. There are people who roll their eyes, who correct every tiny thing, who make you feel small.
That's true. But those people don't own the definition of fluency. They only expose their own insecurity, not yours.
So what is fluency for you, Olivia? Personally.
Fluency is when your heart no longer waits for perfect grammar to speak. It's when your thoughts stop asking for permission to leave your mouth. It's when the fear of wrong is smaller than the desire to be real.
That sounds different from everything I've been told.
What have you been told?
That fluency is about speed, vocabulary size, perfect accent. That if I still translate, I'm not fluent. That if I still search for words, I'm not fluent. That if my accent stays, I'll always be less than.
Then you've been taught to chase a ghost. Speed is not connection. A big vocabulary is not vulnerability. A perfect accent is not proof of a perfect soul.
But accents do matter, don't they? Sometimes people don't take you seriously.
Accents matter because they're beautiful, not because they're right or wrong. My accent tells you where I come from. Yours tells me where you've walked. They're like maps drawn in sound.
So my American accent in English is okay?
It's more than okay. It's you. If you erased it completely, you would erase part of your story.
I never thought of it that way. I always saw my accent as evidence that I didn't belong.
You belong the moment you decide to stay in the conversation. Belonging is not an accent, it's a decision.
That's powerful. But I still get stuck. There are moments when my mind just goes blank.
When that happens, what do you usually do?
I panic. I think, here we go again, I'm failing, and then it gets worse. My tongue feels heavy, my chest tightens, and I want to disappear.
What if, instead of panicking, you treated that blank space as a seat at the table?
A seat at the table?
Yes. A little chair where silence sits with you. You take a breath, you look at the person, and you allow yourself a moment. You can even say, "Give me a second, I want to say this right." That's not failure. That's intimacy.
Intimacy?
Yes. When you show someone your process, you let them see that you care. You're not just throwing words. You're choosing them with intention.
So instead of hiding the struggle, I let it be visible.
Exactly. That's where language becomes human.
You make fluency sound less like a test and more like a relationship.
That's exactly what it is. A relationship between you and the language, and between you and the people who hear you.
And what about mistakes? Because they still hurt.
They do. But look at it this way, every mistake is a door. If you close it out of shame, you stay in the same room forever. If you open it with curiosity, you discover a new part of the language, and a new part of yourself.
A door. I like that image.
When you mispronounce a word and someone gently corrects you, that's the door opening. You can think, "I'm terrible," or you can think, "I just learned something I'll remember for life."
Sometimes I wish I could fast forward this whole process. Skip this messy middle and wake up magically fluent.
If that were possible, you would lose something precious.
What the?
The story. The nights you tried, the days you failed, the small victories when a stranger understood you, the first conversation that made you forget you were speaking English at all. Fluency is not a destination, Marcus. It's the trail those moments leave behind.
So every awkward conversation is part of that trail.
Yes. And right now, this moment, you and I, searching for words and meaning together, this is fluency too.
Even with my hesitation?
Especially with your hesitation. Because you stayed. You didn't switch back to your language. You didn't give up halfway. You stayed here, between your fear and your courage.
Between my fear and my courage.
That's where fluency lives.
Between us.
Between us. Fluency. People chase it as if it were a prize, a finish line where perfection lives. But to me, fluency isn't a medal. It's a moment. The moment when you stop performing a language and start living it. Real fluency begins when you no longer speak to impress, but to connect. When your words are not decoration but bridges. You see, Marcus, language is not just sound. It's empathy shaped into voice. It's the miracle of one heart reaching another through vibration and breath. We often forget that the first thing we ever understood wasn't a word. It was tone, the rhythm of comfort, the melody of care. Long before we spoke, we listened. And that's where fluency is born, in the art of listening, not speaking. There's a phrase I love, language between hearts. It means that understanding doesn't need perfect grammar. It lives in the pauses, the sighs, the smiles, the tears between sentences. Every culture has its own way of saying, I see you, I feel you, I'm here. Sometimes it's just silence, shared in the same breath. You can't measure that with vocabulary lists. You can't teach it with textbooks, because it's not a rule, it's a rhythm. And you find it only when you stop chasing and start listening, truly listening to what someone means, not just what they say. So when people ask me, how do I become fluent? I tell them, don't focus on words, focus on connection. Learn to listen between the lines, where emotions live. Because fluency is not a skill of the tongue, it's a skill of the soul. And when two people meet halfway with patience, kindness, and curiosity, something magical happens. Language dissolves and understanding begins. That's what I mean when I say fluency lives between us.
You know, everything you said makes sense. But it also reminds me of something that happened a few weeks ago.
Go on.
I was having dinner with a few friends, locals, all native speakers. We were talking, laughing, drinking wine. And then someone mentioned their grandmother passing away recently. Everyone went quiet for a second. I wanted to say something comforting, but my mind went blank.
That happens. What did you do?
I tried to say, I'm sorry for your loss. I said, I'm sorry for your loss. And as soon as I said it, I saw his face change. Not sad, thuffed. He smiled and said, thank you, man.
So, the wrong word still reached him.
Exactly. And that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why did he smile like that? Why did something wrong feel so right?
Because your heart spoke first. And hearts are fluent long before tongues are.
I keep replaying it. The tone, the silence that followed, the way he looked at me. It was like he didn't hear the mistake. He heard the emotion behind it.
He did. When people say communication, they think of words. But the truth is, emotion travels faster than grammar ever could.
That moment changed something in me. I realized I'd been chasing the wrong kind of fluency all along. Not the kind that speaks perfectly, but the kind that makes people feel seen.
That's the moment every learner eventually reaches, when the language stops being a wall and starts being a window.
I didn't sound like a native that night. But I think, for the first time, I sounded human.
And that, Marcus, is the most native sound there is.
I used to think mistakes built distance between people. Now I think they build bridges. Because they show you're trying, that you care enough to reach across the gap, even clumsily.
Exactly. Perfection closes doors. Vulnerability opens them.
There's something else, too. Sometimes, when I speak English, I feel lighter. Like I can say things I'd never say in my own language. It's strange. Like English gives me permission to be a different version of myself.
That's not strange at all. Every language we learn gives us a new mirror, a new way of seeing who we are. When you speak another language, you don't lose yourself. You meet yourself again from another angle.
So maybe learning English isn't about escaping who I am, but expanding it.
Yes, language doesn't change you, it reveals you. It gives you words for feelings you didn't know had names.
That's beautiful. I remember once I told someone, I miss you, and they said, that's such an American thing to say. But it wasn't. It was just honest.
Honesty often sounds foreign, no matter the language.
You know, I used to think being fluent meant blending in. Now I think it means standing out, but in a way that connects.
Beautifully said. Fluency isn't disappearance. It's presence. It's the ability to stay in the moment, even when words tremble.
Sometimes I still freeze, especially when emotions are involved. When I'm angry or sad or moved, English suddenly feels smaller than what I want to say.
That's because emotion is older than language. Even in our native tongues, we often say, I don't know how to put it into words. And yet, the feeling still arrives through silence, through eyes, through gestures. That, Marcus, is fluency too.
You really believe silence can be fluent?
Oh yes. Some of the most profound conversations I've ever had were made entirely of silence. A shared look, a nod, a hand over another hand. Words are only one way of saying, I understand.
That's comforting, because I've had those moments too, where nothing was said, but everything was felt.
Then you already know what most textbooks will never teach you. Language lives not only in what is spoken, but in what is understood anyway.
It's strange. I came here to learn English, but lately, I feel like I'm learning how to be more human.
Maybe that's what language was always meant for, not to teach us words, but to remind us how to listen, how to feel, how to connect.
When you say it like that, fluency doesn't sound so distant anymore. It feels possible.
It is, because you've already found it right here between honesty and hesitation, between laughter and silence.
Between us.
Between us. You see, Marcus, every language is a universe. And when two universes meet, they don't merge perfectly. They collide, they bend, they create light. Fluency isn't when the collision stops. It's when you learn to dance within it.
Then I guess I'm learning how to dance.
You are. And the best part? You don't need the right steps, just rhythm and presence.
Maybe that's what you meant earlier, when you said, fluency lives between us.
Yes, between the sound and the silence, between what we mean and what we manage to say, between two imperfect people willing to understand each other anyway.
That's beautiful. I think I finally get it now.
No, Marcus, you don't just get it. You live it. When the world talks about fluency, it talks about words. How many you know, how fast you speak, how native you sound. But words are only half the story. The real fluency lives in what happens after the words, in the silence that still understands, in the laughter that fills the gaps, in the eyes that say, I get you. Every time you try, every time you stay in the conversation, even when it's hard, that's fluency. Every time you reach out across the distance between you and another person, that's fluency. It doesn't live in dictionaries or textbooks. It lives here in the fragile, beautiful space where two people choose to understand each other anyway. Fluency doesn't live in words. It lives between us. If this moment spoke to you, stay. There are more stories waiting here. Stories about language and about life. You'll find the next one on the screen right now. And until then, keep speaking, keep feeling, keep connecting, because every word you share brings the world a little closer.